Oh no, if you're about to ask me to dance, then don't.
Come on, don't be shy. How about you, Cloud?
I don't dance. I don't dance.
I want to start by telling you all a little story about my early video gaming days. Take a trip down memory lane with me. When I was about 11 years old, my older brother, on a post-school trip to Best Buy, brought home a new game that he'd been excitedly rambling about for months. He read about it in a gaming magazine that he had. I don't know, I'd never really listened to him.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
It was called Final Fantasy VII, and I was not interested. I thought it sounded lame. Final Fantasy? You dork? But he popped the CD in the CD drive of our old, loud, grindy white computer. I then couldn't help but start looking over his shoulder as he played. The loading screen. Looks really cool. The graphics, which were insane at the time. The music? I was hooked. Of course, he wouldn't let me play it very much, so I'd proceed to go upstairs into my room and punch my pillow in frustration until it was time for chicken pot pie downstairs. He'd go off eventually and do something else, and the computer was mine. This was usually Friday nights. My dad would go to the Greek coffee house after work for like 10 hours.
I just need my coffee.
And my brother was off having a life or something, I don't know. But I'd boot it up, and I'd listen to that sweet, sweet melody. Talking about Final Fantasy VII now is like taking a trip back home. Returning to your childhood room that seems to be a little bit smaller every time you visit. The creaking of the ancient floorboards when you first walk in. When I boot up the original Final Fantasy now, it's like I'm back there. Everything about this universe of characters connects with me on a deep level. The incredible narrative, the combat, the graphics. Hey man, I'm telling you, when this came out, this was lit.
That looks like a pile of defrosted snow with bear shit sprinkled all over it.
We're gonna do things a little bit differently today. We're gonna jump across the cloud and enter a different universe of entertainment and analysis. Historically, all I've ever talked about are TV characters, and I've been really meaning to jump into the realm of video games for a long time. With part 2 of Final Fantasy VII Remake just around the corner, I knew the time was nigh. If you really think about it, TV characters and video game characters are not that different from each other. TV and video game characters have similar story and narrative arcs too. Movies are quite a bit different. The writers have to cram massive character development into 2 short hours of screen time. TV and video game characters don't get restricted like this. TV characters get seasons and seasons of episodes, sometimes over 20 each, to teach us all the nuances of the character. Video game characters can appear in multiple games, with playtimes in the hundreds and hundreds of hours. I'm looking at you, Persona 5. This means more decisions, more interactions, more crises, more information that allows us to better connect with our characters. As long as I can remember, I've always connected really deeply with video games over any other form of media. Because when you play a game, you're not really just watching what's happening. You become the character yourself. You control their destiny, make the good or bad decisions, experience jubilation and loss. When I played God of War, I wasn't watching Kratos cut down trees and abuse his son. I was doing the abusing. Ripping teeth out of the mouths of dragons, rolling my eyes at corny dwarves, and of course, looking like a dad.
I'm very aroused right now.
I too am aroused.
I'm starting to swell up. Yeah.
And for this reason, I think it's easier to fall in love with and possibly hate characters in games. You're more personally invested in what's happening, and you feel bound to their fate. TV, I think, is a little different from this. When you watch a character make a mistake, you kind of go, how can that person be such a fucking idiot? But in video games, you are the fucking idiot.
You are.
You know what I think about most when I think about Final Fantasy VII, believe it or not? It's the soundtrack. Bar none, I think this is the single greatest soundtrack for any game ever. Yeah, I know there's a lot of amazing soundtracks out here, but pick any single song, any at all from the soundtrack, and they are bangers. And not only was the original soundtrack incredible, I think the Final Fantasy VII Remake improved it by quite a bit. I get such a nostalgia overload from listening to this, I cannot be the only one.
Damn, that shit good!
Okay, we're getting off topic. My love of Final Fantasy VII runs deep, and I've always wanted to do this. I've really never even touched another Final Fantasy game. And Cloud, the main protagonist, has always kind of felt like he's part of my own personality, part of my upbringing. The hero with the spiky blonde hair. The absolute cringy edgelord.
Don't know. Don't care.
Whatever, motherfucker!
Our goal today, and with each subsequent video in the series, is to rate every character on a set of standardized, measurable dimensions. Yes, I know this is going to be controversial, and yes, this is just going to be for fun. I mean, how the hell are you going to directly compare Cloud to somebody like Master Cheeks? Here's the plan for each video in the series. First, we're going to answer the question, who is Cloud? This intro section will detail what games our characters appeared in, who they are, why they're prominent, and some characteristics about them. If you have no idea who I'm talking about, why are you here? No, I'm not mad. I mean, don't go. This section will help you get a basic understanding of who we're talking about. In the second part, we're going to highlight the background on the character we've chosen. Their upbringing, early life, details before their game starts. We'll go into more detail about the in-universe events that made them who they are. In the third section, this is the real meat of the video.
That's what she said!
We're going to talk about the character's personality, their prominent traits, maybe their skills. Why are they unique, and what makes them special? What motivates them? Essentially, why do they matter? In the last part, we're going to rate the character on 5 different dimensions and give them a grade on each one of them from 1 to 10, so we can directly compare it to other video game characters we choose in the future. We'll then give the character a single grade to see if they're the best. So let's stop this incessant rambling and answer the question. Who is Cloud Strife, and why might he be the greatest video game character of all time? Now, one question you might ask is, what source material are we going to use when we talk about Cloud? Are we going to talk about the original game more? The remake? Yeah, I know, most of the clips are from the remake. I mean, dude, it just looks so much better. Are we going to talk about Advent Children? Hell, anywhere else he's appeared? My man, why you gotta fuck up Mario? Like, the differences between the original game and the remake could fill a video on its own. That's not what we're focusing on today. We're just talking about Cloud as a character. And to be frank, his personality and traits seem pretty consistent throughout all his appearances. We'll use examples from both games, but I think that he's pretty much the same anywhere you look. Cloud Strife is a prominent character in the Final Fantasy series, an extremely popular and long-running franchise that's probably one of the most popular RPG series ever made. Did I mention it's also one of my favorite games? Okay, I did. Okay, got it. I mean, everybody knows what Final Fantasy is. Hell, my dad even knows what it is.
What game? I mean, I wouldn't know. Doesn't matter. Don't continue.
Final
Have this conversation.
Cloud first gained widespread recognition in the 1997 game Final Fantasy VII, which at the time was groundbreaking. It stood out for its leaps in graphics and narrative design. Cloud himself is a youngerish, spiky-haired, glowing-eyed human, a former member of Soldier. Well, yeah, kinda. We'll get into that later. Cloud becomes the central figure in a story filled with political intrigue, environmental themes, and memorable characters. Cloud is known for his iconic, bristling golden hair and his one-of-a-kind Buster Sword. Cloud is often portrayed as a stoic and complex protagonist, dealing with his past and inner conflicts.
What the fuck do you want?
While he navigates a world threatened by a powerful corporation, Shinra. And of course, I mean, name a more iconic villain. Oh wait.
Good to see you.
Throughout both the original Final Fantasy VII and the remake, Cloud showcases tremendous agility and strength in combat. It tends to be a very versatile all-around fighter. Personality-wise, Cloud's initially portrayed as more distant and quiet, but over the course of his narrative arc, he opens up and becomes more compassionate and self-aware. He learns to love. His internal struggles and quest for identity contribute to his complex and relatable persona. Cloud matters, not only for being an iconic video game character, but a symbol of what happens in the gaming industry when you evolve. Aside from Final Fantasy VII, Cloud's Strife has appeared in various spin-offs, crossover titles, etc. His popularity extends beyond the gaming realm. Cloud isn't just unique and interesting because he looks interesting, but also in the emotional depth and character development explored through his journey in all these games. His personality and backstory are at the same time very simple, but also incredibly convoluted and complex, especially when we talk about Zack. Over the course of several games, we've learned a lot about Cloud Strife. Wait, really? Damn, they really thought of it. Cloud was born on August 11th, 1986, in the mountain village of Nibelheim. Nibelheim? Whatever. A small, quaint, charming town in the Final Fantasy world. The Final Fantasy series is set on Earth, but this Earth is a little bit different from ours. Earth is actually a living being in the Final Fantasy world, whose life force, called the life stream, is composed of an energy called Mako energy. Mako fuels the world's technological advancements, but also serves as a poignant commentary on the consequences of what happens when you exploit the world's resources. Yeah, I get we probably don't need all these details, but hey, it's important. Growing up, Cloud lived next door to Tifa Lockhart, although he didn't know her very well. Oh, look how cute they are. When Tifa was young, her mother died, and not wanting to accept this, Tifa crossed Mount Nibel, believing she could see her mother again. Cloud followed her without her knowing, and when Tifa ended up falling, Cloud tried to catch her, but failed. Tifa ended up falling into a 7-day coma, and her father ended up blaming Cloud for not saving her. This caused Cloud to harbor a ton of anger and guilt towards himself. This is what inevitably pushed Cloud to become a member of Soldier, Shinra's elite military force. This desire stemmed from Cloud wanting to overcome this self-doubt, and of course the allure and prestige of being like the soldier hero Sephiroth. Then, the most important event in the game happens, the Nibelheim event. Cloud joins Soldier First Class, goes on a mission with Sephiroth to his old hometown to investigate monsters popping up near a Mako reactor. Sephiroth hires Tifa as a tour guide too. While investigating the reactor, Sephiroth ends up learning the truth about his own twisted past, and Genova, which is like an alien that crashed to Earth thousands of years ago and kind of helped birth him. It's too much to cover, and of course he's disgusted at all this, and starts to violently lash out. Cloud and Tifa both attempt to stop him, but Tifa gets injured. Cloud saves Tifa and confronts Sephiroth, but his memory gets a little fuzzy at this point. I wonder if we're going to get more details about this at some point. By the way, this is all backstory before the game even starts, but you don't know it all right away. The game officially starts with Cloud, retired from Soldier looking for money, joining Barrett Wallace in an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche. Cloud reluctantly works with Barrett and company to blow up reactors owned by Shinra, which will help free the planet from sucking all the Mako energy out of it. After successfully destroying the second reactor, Cloud falls into the slums below and meets Aerith, the last remaining ancient, who is then pursued and later captured by Shinra, as they believe she knows the location of the Promised Land. Shinra does eventually learn about Avalanche and where they're staying, and ends up intentionally dropping part of the upper city plate onto the lower part, killing thousands of innocents, and at the same time, blaming Avalanche on this. Cloud and company eventually do rescue Aerith and escape Midgar, but learn that Sephiroth, who they thought was dead, I guess, is very much alive. Later on, we learn Sephiroth's main goal is to acquire the Black Materia, which will summon a meteor that will crash into the Earth. When the planet uses the life stream to heal the wound caused by the meteor, Sephiroth will be there and suck up all that sweet Mako energy, becoming a god. Obviously, a lot happens between this diabolical scheme of Sephiroth and when the party escapes Midgard. The Golden Saucer games. Aerith dying, being one of the most pivotal moments in gaming history,
And then Eris.
This is crazy.
And Eris
Okay.
right at her peak.
Gets killed.
Kate Sith's betrayal and later redemption. Sid's storyline, Red 13, Genova, Hojo, the entire Cetra ancient backstory, learning the real truth about Cloud's backstory, weapon. I mean, there's just so much to cover. But listen, this video isn't meant to be an entire summary of the game. That alone would take 30 minutes. Just know that Cloud and company do stop Sephiroth. Since we're here to talk about Cloud, I need to make a little point of clarification. That story I told you earlier about Nibelheim, that was incorrect. You see, I'm a goddamn liar.
You're a liar. You're a liar!
I think the great thing about the narrative of this game is that it goes on, we learn the truth about who Cloud really is. That he didn't make Soldier. And the way this story drip feeds you this information is brilliant. You see, Cloud fails to join Soldier, but instead joins Shinra as a measly guard. He meets an actual soldier from first class named Zack, who has spiky hair and who has a Buster Sword. Sounds familiar. Cloud and Zack both bond over being small town boys. The real truth of the Nibelheim event is that Cloud, Sephiroth, and Zack all head up there together. Cloud is not in Soldier in this scenario, but a guard, who covers his face to hide the shame of returning home a failure. Sephiroth does still learn of his horrific past, too, and ends up burning Nibelheim to the ground, killing everyone, including Cloud's mother. Cloud sees Zack chasing Sephiroth up a mountain, and after Zack is defeated, Cloud picks up Zack's Buster Sword, catches Sephiroth off guard, and while getting impaled, manages to throw Sephiroth into the lifestream of the planet, where he's presumed dead or missing, I'm not sure. Hojo, a crazy scientist and Sephiroth's biological father, captures both Zack and Cloud and experiments on them. He injects them with Sephiroth cells, soaks them in Mako, and puts them in a cryogenic stasis. This is also why, at points in the original game, we see Cloud acting weird and being mind-controlled because of these Sephiroth cells. Zack and Cloud eventually escape, but Shinra catches up with them. Zack manages to defend them both, but dies in the process. Cloud then picks up Zack's Buster Sword and conflates his own personality and past with Zack's. Hence, the story about Soldier. His past with Sephiroth. All the trippy flashbacks and images we get, it's from Cloud's repressed personality and memories. Interestingly enough, at the end of the remake, things seem to be setting off in a different direction. At the ending of the remake, Cloud and company end up destroying these entities that act like ghosts of fate. Sephiroth, instead of focusing on the black materia and meteor, obsesses with Cloud, because this version of Sephiroth knows the future. He knows he's going to lose to Cloud. So what does Sephiroth do? He tricks Cloud and company into killing these ghosts of fate so he could be free of the shackles of destiny. Now Sephiroth can win. We are no longer locked into the plot of the original game. Will Aerith die? Will Cloud win? We don't know. But here is the real kicker. When those ghosts die at the end of the game, we see Zack alive. This at least hints that the events of Rebirth will be different. Whew. I am tired. This game confused the living hell out of me when I was little. But now that I'm older, I really respect how intricate and nuanced it is. It's still tough to summarize concisely, so that one's on me. But let's get to the next section now.
We should finish this journey while I still have strength.
Before anything else, let's start with a name. Cloud Strife. A cloud. Mysterious. Non-tangible. Hard to see through. Tumultuous. And of course, strife. Conflict. Turmoil. Inner pain. Compare this to his black-haired counterpart, Zack Fair. Fair weather. Easygoing. I think the developers said it was supposed to be both about weather. Yeah. These two seem to be destined for alternate lives just from their names. Let's talk about negative traits about Cloud. Or maybe, I won't call them negative, just lesser desired things you don't want.
I'm not stupid.
Cloud appears to have PTSD, amnesia, and massive self-confidence issues. This might be more dormant than overt, but he's shown on multiple occasions to really doubt his potential. Take for instance, in the original, when he goes back to his hometown, he covers his face so people don't see that he turned out to be a guard. You go around talking about how you're gonna be like Sephiroth one day, and then you show up a nobody. This is like the equivalent of going around your high school talking about how you're gonna own Wall Street one day, and then showing up to your 10-year reunion in a 1996 Ford Acura with plastic wrap over a window. Yeah guys, my life is going great. Whoa! Cloud's a light sleeper, possibly suffering from insomnia. And at least in the beginning of his life, he's been showcased to be very weak. Unable to save Tifa when she gets injured. Unable to join Soldier. We see him easily getting nauseous while traveling with Zack and Sephiroth. Whether this be from a weak stomach, motion sickness, or he's terrified, these are just clearly less than admirable traits. Now, I'm not a clinical psychologist, but Cloud also shows classic signs of having a serious dissociation disorder, which is a mental process of disconnecting your thoughts, feelings, or memories from your identity. This usually occurs when someone experiences something traumatic. I think a mixture of Cloud's shame, being experimented on by Hojo, and losing his entire village and mom to Sephiroth caused him to dissociate from reality and create a new persona. Some people might argue that Cloud has DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. But I disagree. Dissociative identity disorder is characterized as having two or more completely unique personalities. Something like Moon Knight. Cloud before the Nibelheim event and after aren't two completely different people. He's a little different, but it's just mostly him blocking out certain events and misremembering others. This dissociation, coupled with his friendship with Zack, has caused Cloud to unintentionally create a new memory and backstory for himself. I think Cloud needs a therapist, and maybe a hug. Yeah, we've all got stuff that we don't love, but I think Cloud's good outweighs the bad. Let's talk about that now. Whether you want to admit it or not, Cloud does appear to be extremely physically gifted. Even though he wasn't officially in Soldier, his combat abilities are pretty much bar none. Cloud is also a very selfless, caring person. Multiple times in both the original and the remake, he puts others before himself and offers to be sacrificed to save his friends. We envy his abilities and skill in combat and his strong but silent attitude. But as the game progresses, he becomes a softie. He's different around Tifa and Aerith, and he shows his friends more and more that he cares about them. Cloud's also really honest. He doesn't really ever seem to lie or pull punches. He's just direct.
Yeah.
Cloud?
Excuse me.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
He never shows fear and stands up for what he and his friends believe in. We see him get stronger and stronger throughout the game. Not just because you gain levels from combat, but he just seems to be getting intrinsically better at everything. I mean, going from a weakling who could barely ride in a car without throwing up to killing Sephiroth, again, in the original. I mean, that's growth for sure. Cloud is resilient and he's badass to his core. I also like to analyze if a character is an anti-hero and talk about their character archetype. Anti-heroes are considered protagonists who have less than admirable traits, like they lack courage or make questionable moral decisions. Character archetypes represent a universal pattern that we can recognize and relate to throughout cinema, games, and literature. Characters typically fall into one of 12 categories. You might be asking why I'm talking about these both at once. It's because I can answer both of them with a single word. Hero. First off, Cloud's clearly not an anti-hero. He's courageous, strong, and the epitome of someone who saves the day. He's a hero down to his core. And when we talk about character archetypes, Cloud also falls into the hero archetype here. Heroes display courage, strength, and lift up those around them. Typical drawbacks of hero archetypes are overconfidence and excessive hubris, but I don't even see Cloud having this problem. He's as tried and tested as they come. Let's now focus on a more tangible element to Cloud's personality, his intelligence. Let's talk about a hypothetical IQ for Cloud. IQ stands for Intelligence Quotient, and is a measure of a person's reasoning and problem-solving ability. IQ tests are supposed to gauge how well a person can use information and logic to answer questions or make predictions. Alright, you know what IQ is, with 100 being the average. Where do we place Cloud on the spectrum in relation to other video game characters? I don't think that Cloud is dumb at all. In fact, I think he's quite the opposite. Pretty sharp. Yeah, he's broody and quiet, but that doesn't mean he possesses below average intelligence. His score will take into account his combat prowess, tactical skill, and occasional moments of strategic brilliance we've seen. While he has faced many emotional struggles and lapses in judgment, Cloud's overall aptitude suggests a sharp mind and above average intelligence. So, with all this in mind, I will place Cloud Strife's IQ at 115, or the 84th percentile of total intelligence. This is all subjective, who the hell knows what's right? Cloud is undoubtedly intelligent, more so than I think most people give him credit for. And let's be really honest, there are a ton of really stupid video game characters. Now that we know Cloud's overall IQ, let's break down his intelligence into 9 subgroups, and give him a grade on each, from 1 to 10, with 5 being the average. Spatial intelligence is the concept of being able to successfully perceive and derive insight from visual data. Being able to give directions, understand terrain. Cloud displays reasonable spatial awareness and navigation skills, particularly in traversing complex environments. We've seen him drive his motorcycle with ease and drive the highway. I'll give Cloud a 7. Naturalist intelligence is the ability to identify and be familiar with plants, animals, and the earth. Think of a gardener or an herbalist. While not explicitly highlighted in any game, Cloud does display some connection to the natural world. He demonstrates an understanding of environmental cues and adapts his strategies accordingly. I'll give Cloud a 6. Musical intelligence is the ability to discern pitch, tone, and be skilled with instruments. I don't think we get much evidence of Cloud being musically talented, like at all. He never picks up an instrument, talks about music, or anything. Now, I'm tempted to give him a really low score, but with that epic dancing scene from the remake, he clearly understands rhythm, and boy does he have the moves. Cloud gets a 4. Logical mathematical is the ability to analyze situations or problems and identify solutions. So with an IQ of 115, we'd assume Cloud gets a good score here. We've seen him consistently analyze enemy behavior and battlefield conditions to come out on top. He assesses risk, decides what missions to pursue, buys time for his friends to escape, and demonstrates raw intelligence. I'd give Cloud an 8. Existential intelligence is the ability to contemplate and understand the deeper philosophical questions about the meaning of life. Cloud's journey is full of existential questions and philosophical contemplation. He is constantly searching for his place in the world and attempting to understand his fragmented identity and past. Searching for the answers is half the battle with Cloud. He gets an 8. Interpersonal intelligence is defined as being able to effectively communicate and understand others. Cloud builds rapport with his teammates by actively listening to their concerns and providing reassurance when they need it. He's a good listener, he communicates well, and he gives good feedback, and his words never get misinterpreted. Cloud gets a 6. Body kinesthetic intelligence is the mastery over one's physical abilities. This should come as no surprise. Cloud is extremely gifted here. Whether he's engaging in a one-on-one duel or facing a ton of people at once, Cloud's fluid movements and swift reflexes enable him to adapt to ever-changing combat scenarios and always find a way to come out on top. In his early life, he's displayed as being weaker and a failure, but watching Cloud grow into his physical abilities and whoop some ass is satisfying. Cloud gets a 10. Linguistic intelligence refers to an individual's ability to use language effectively, both orally and written. Cloud doesn't seem to have anything above average here. His diction is normal. His ability to communicate is just fine. He's a good leader, but I don't think because of his fiery speech. Cloud gets a 5. The final intelligence type, intrapersonal intelligence, is the ability to control and understand one's own emotions. Cloud's entire journey is always marked by moments of deep introspection and self-awareness about his grapples with his identity and trauma. In the movie Advent Children, see, I told you I was going to talk about this. The main theme of the movie is Cloud grappling with his guilt and past failures, like with Aerith. Cloud has the capacity to understand his emotions, shortcomings, and what he's capable of. Cloud gets an A. Let's now talk about the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI. The MBTI is a personality assessment that categorizes individuals into one of 16 personality types based on their preferences in 4 dichotomies. It aims to provide insights into how people perceive the world, make decisions, and how they interact. I've never personally put much weight in the MBTI, as its validity and reliability are debatable at best, but I still think that it could be a fun exercise. Cloud falls into the INFP category, also known as the mediator. This rare personality type is all about empathy, speaking the truth, and looking for their place in the world. Mediators are creative, intelligent, and look for deep connections. We're going to end this section now discussing a hypothetical EQ, or emotional intelligence, for Cloud. Similar to IQ, EQ looks at a different subset of intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, as well as your capacity for empathy and effective relationships. What percentile would we give Cloud for his EQ? Well, let's first look at what we know. Cloud seems like a very self-aware person. He knows his faults, his fears, and he admits when he makes a mistake. He's introspective, composed, and rational in very difficult situations. I don't think we've ever really seen him lose his temper at all, so he's very aware of his own emotions. In addition, Cloud displays above average empathy towards his friends. He's also got strong social skills, as I mentioned before. I think overall, Cloud is a very emotionally intelligent person. So with all this in mind, I will rank Cloud in the 80th percentile for emotional intelligence. We've made it to the final portion of our Cloud analysis video. This is the part you've all been waiting for. Hell, the part I've been waiting for. To determine if Cloud is the best ever, we're going to grade him on 5 different dimensions of what fits the greatest video game character ever. This isn't all-encompassing, but should be a decent reflection on categories that some might argue the best characters need to rank well in. We'll introduce each of the 5, talk about Cloud's aptitude in them, and give a grade on each, from 1 to 10. We're first going to grade Cloud on his development and arc as a video game character. Yes, as I've specified earlier, we're not necessarily pulling from a single piece of fiction. I don't think Cloud's character development and writing quality differ that much when we look across all his appearances. This grade, at least in my mind, will mostly come from the original game and now the remake too. Cloud's development, at least in my humble opinion, demonstrates exceptional writing quality, showcasing a nuanced evolution that resonates with us video game enthusiasts. Cloud grapples with his fractured memories, struggles with his identity, and confronts inner demons in a believable manner for somebody in his shoes. What's also special is how this game gradually unveils his past and how it's intertwined with his present struggles. It adds depth and complexity to the character, making his growth feel authentic and earned. Cloud's transformation from a disillusioned former soldier to a determined hero is masterfully crafted. This is about as well written as a character arc can get. Cloud gets a 9 in character development. The second metric we'll grade Cloud on is emotional impact. How much does Cloud connect with players during his journey? Does his journey evoke strong emotions? Do you think about him after the game is over? For me, absolutely 100%. Cloud's journey resonated with me on a deep level. Looking up to him, how badass and strong he is, how stoic. Edgy 11-year-old me ate that shit up. But even now, thinking about Cloud's past and how it contains such a tragic psychological shattering, and how the real truth was even more sad, kinda messes me up. And of course, if we're talking about emotional moments, all you have to talk about is Aerith. Yes, this is more related to the game's narrative than Cloud as a character, but I don't necessarily agree. Cloud's chemistry with her left him destroyed, and we felt awful for him. It helped drive his decisions, and our empathy towards him. Cloud's emotional depth and the impact of his experiences contribute to the emotional resonance of the Final Fantasy VII game as a whole, its popularity, and honestly, pretty much the entire reason these remakes got made at all. Cloud gets an 8 in emotional impact. The third metric we will measure is relatability. Simply put, how relatable is the character to the audience? Cloud resonates with players due to his relatable qualities and experiences, even though we're playing a game on a completely different Earth. Players empathize with his shame and uncertainty and can understand his desire for redemption.
Well, hello there.
I'm not sure how many people that have played this game have gone through a full-blown dissociation and identity crisis similar to Jason Bourne, but oh well.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
I think the themes Cloud embodies transcend the gaming world and make Cloud a character that players can easily connect with on a personal level. His relationship with Tifa, Aerith, Barrett reflect common human experiences of friendship, love, and loss. Cloud gets a 7 in relatability. The fourth metric we'll look at is uniqueness. How unlike other video game protagonists is Cloud? Well, for starters, while he does look pretty unique, I can't say that somebody like my wife could pick him out of a lineup of JRPG characters. He has that traditional JRPG look, and I think he looks a bit more unique than most, but in a sea of memorable video game characters, I don't think he ranks too high for his appearance. Cloud also embodies the whole strong, broody exterior, but once you get to know him, he's a caring, vulnerable guy trope, which we've seen a lot of through the years. So this begs the question, where does Cloud earn some uniqueness points? Even though I trashed it, his design, at least for most JRPG characters, is of the most memorable. His Buster Sword alone is one of the most unique weapons in video gaming history.
Do you realize how huge this is?
His non-traditional hero qualities, like being less than courageous and a nobody in his early years, and being kind of a goofball, are quite different. Cloud gets a 6 in uniqueness. The final category we'll rate Cloud on is Gaming World Impact. In this category, we're going to assess characters' influence on the gaming world and gaming culture. Characters that leave a lasting impact, shape the narrative, or affect other video games are going to rate a lot higher here. There's some really strong evidence to suggest that Cloud has been undeniably influential in the world of gaming culture. Cloud has been parodied left and right, and his name is synonymous with not only the Final Fantasy series, but video games in general. While many would argue if Final Fantasy VII is truly a JRPG, Cloud has kind of become the poster child of this genre. Cloud's also had a ton of spin-off media, and other prequels and sequels he's appeared in. Tie that all in with his striking design and iconic Buster Sword, and you have one of the most recognizable, influential gaming characters we can think of. Now, Cloud might not be at the iconic level of Mario, but I think he does pretty well. Cloud gets an 8. So when we add it all up, Cloud gets a score of 38 out of 50. Now, this doesn't sound great, but I think it's a really solid score. We'll definitely have to wait and see how he stacks up against other video game greats. Can I say Cloud is the best video game character to have ever been created? Probably not. Do I think he's up there? For sure. I think he's the perfect blend of nice, relatable, and cool. This video was really fun to make, not just because I wanted to talk about Cloud and how he's one of my favorite protagonists, but I was also excited to jump back into the Final Fantasy VII world. This amazing game isn't just solely about a single person, a single theme. It makes me sad that I wasn't able to cover a lot more. The importance of Tifa, jumping deeper into Cloud's psyche and his relationship with Sephiroth, how the Rebirth remake is going to look a lot different, talking more about the political themes, the supporting cast, and their incredible backstories. This game is special to me, not just because it's connected to my childhood, but because of how influential of a game it's been to us all. I don't think many would disagree with me saying that Final Fantasy VII is probably one of the top 10 most influential games ever. And I am so excited for Rebirth. I can tell how much love and dedication from Square Enix went into this game. They keep the essence of what made the original so great. Serious, world-ending, tragic, but goofy as hell. I love it. And I love Cloud. He connects with people not because he looks badass and has a comically large sword. It's because of the depth of his background. We can't put Cloud into a single bucket, and we would never want to. But what no one will ever doubt about Cloud is that he is a hero through and through. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm probably going to do a lot more of these types of videos, so stay tuned. I'll see you all soon.